Story 1. Originally, it was when I felt that I couldn't survive with my alcoholic, cocaine addict, cheating ex-husband anymore. After a year-long separation during which I met the love of my life, my ex-husband called me and convinced me to give him another chance because he got a job and promised to stay sober. I broke up with my true love to go back so we could raise our child together. Like a fool, I believed that if we did counseling and enough recovery work, we could make it happen. The problem was, regardless of whether he got sober or stopped cheating, there wouldn't be any trust. Our child suffered. I knew it was time for the true divorce and to finally end it when one day, I looked at my ex-husband and realized that no matter how hard we tried, and no matter how successful we were upholding a marriage that we should have let die after the first round. I was sitting in the living room that day when it just dawned on me that I lost the love of my life to pursue a fantasy of healing. Guilt about my child made me go back to him, and guilt about being an idiot made me leave him. Story 2. When I thought about grabbing his gun and shooting either him or myself, I did not care which. Then I grabbed my purse and ran out of the house in my nightgown. Story 3. The night he told me he would slit my throat and burn the house down with me and our child in it if I was still there when he got back because he was angry I had followed him and caught him with his girlfriend. I mean, what kind of wife would stoop so low as to follow their husband when he is just trying to spend quality time with his girlfriend? Amen for growth and being on the other side. Story 4. When I got tired of picking up yet again after my third child, even though I only gave birth to 2, I was working over 50-hour weeks. I was taking care of the house, the yard, and the bills. I was drinking too much to try to cope with everything I had been through, and he rarely even got dressed. I still don't know how he was keeping his job, but I finally said the lease runs out at the end of October. I am moving, and I am not taking you with me. Story 5. When she refused to try, openly stating that making our marriage better did not matter. When she pretended that I was not speaking while we sat and had dinner with our children at the table. When she moped around and did not say a single word. But as soon as I went to bed, she got online with her gaming friends and was laughing and acting like everything was normal. I decided that it was not fair to me to stay married and that I was not going to show my children that this behavior was acceptable. Story 6. When I started thinking about how much better life would be if he were no longer around, even if it was just a freak accident. Story 7. When I realized there are children starving in developing countries and prisoners of war who were imprisoned and tortured for decades, yet complain less than she does. Story 8. One year I received a 100% salary bonus. I wanted to pursue adoption because I could not have children, and we discussed it for weeks. I contacted an adoption agency. I came home to a new yellow Corvette in the driveway. That night, I moved into the spare bedroom and filed for divorce. My husband of over 10 years and I have separate finances. Never again. Story 9. My ex-wife left the marriage twice. We reconciled in the middle. After we got back together, she promised she would never leave again and said she regretted her decision to separate. Before we got back together, I insisted on taking a few months to date, get counseling, and rebuild trust. Things had improved, so I took a leap of faith and we bought a new place together. 2 years later, she said she was unhappy again. She came out as a lesbian. That was the end of the marriage. She left for good, and about 18 months later we were divorced. Her coming out explained so much in hindsight. The dead bedroom, the lack of affection, the 3-second hugs. But the fact that she wanted to reconcile after leaving the first time made me feel used. She wanted to save face as she figured herself out. When she left, she took pleasure in my pain and caused a lot of unnecessary chaos and suffering in the lives of others. I didn't know she was capable of that. After she left the first time, I blamed myself for the failure of the marriage. After she left the second time, I knew it was time to get off the roller coaster, heal, learn my lessons, and move forward. I have come to realize that the divorce was the best thing that could have happened to our marriage. I wish her well. Story 10. When I realized I could not be bothered to have the same argument again, it felt like I was in the movie Groundhog Day. It was not a big issue, though there were significant problems. They were being petulant over dinner plans. Story 11. There was a lot of lead up, but the moment I noticed was when my wife told me she wanted another child. It would have been our third. What spilled out of my mouth, and it was the truth, was, I would love to have another child, just not with you. Story 12. I thought I had cancer and did not want him to come to my follow-up visit because I knew he would not be supportive. Story 13. She left me with the children because she had never really loved me, and I had served my purpose of providing offspring and money. I changed the locks that day and filed papers with the family court 2 days later. Story 14. My ex was going out with friends all the time and moving on with her life. I knew I was going to leave when the kids were 18 and I would be 52. But seeing her happy while I was the one stuck at home with the kids started to wear on me. I wasn't even mad that she was having fun. I was distraught that I might not get a chance to find love again and would be out of the dating pool. Also, the last time she called me a loser, I didn't speak a word or acknowledge her for the next month. That was a big motivator. Story 15. After 20 years of verbal, psychological, and sexual abuse, he went into a rage over something minor and told me I was nothing but a pretty face and that he would never respect me until I made the money he made. I left and found a therapist as a last-ditch attempt. He did not even try to appear good to the therapist we saw. The therapist literally stood between us to protect me when he raged. He stalked me and engaged in many other abusive behaviors. I eventually gave up and filed for divorce. It was the best move I ever made. The therapist said he was the best manipulator he had ever encountered and was a sociopath who would never change. He is remarried and on medication now. I feel sorry for her. Story 16. 2 things. Broke my trust by relapsing 20 times and putting no effort into fixing our relationship. My best friend died, and my sadness was treated as an inconvenience to her. Story 17. Not me, but a cousin of mine, and it is a story that I do not see here, so I will share. He divorced her because she became a born-again Christian. They had been together for 20 years and had 3 children, but the children were getting older, late junior high, high school, and away at college, and she was a bit lonely. A coworker convinced her to go with her to an evangelical church, and she became involved. When it became clear that it was not going to be a short phase, he left her. He said it was bad enough that she was giving a significant amount of money to the church, but that was not the final straw. She would say to him, "How are we going to stay together when I have been saved and am going to heaven and you are not?" He told me that if it had been an occasional thing, he could have ignored it, but it was like a constant drumbeat of her trying to get him to join her in going. Story 18. Seeing a text he sent her during a work trip that said, "I'm really disappointed you didn't pick up. I was hoping to hear your voice before I went to bed." His mother telling me he called her every night, saying how much he missed the children while he was gone for 6 weeks without ever calling us once, was just extra icing. Story 19. Answering for my father. The honeymoon when my mother was holding a knife to her throat and he was trying to calm her down was the first time he thought, "I have made a mistake." Story 20. When he cheated on me for the 3rd time, I was in a position to leave him. He sent the separation papers first because I did not talk to him for 3 days after he admitted to cheating. Story 21. When he called the police on me, I was sitting there waiting for them to arrive, thinking to myself, what in this troubled relationship is this? No relationship should survive the police being called on each other. I was in a dark place, and he had pushed me to my limit with his narcissistic, gaslighting, toxic behavior. I felt like a caged and cornered animal, lashing out from desperation. Story 22. I will let you all know. Father's Day and my birthday are less than 2 weeks away. If my wife does nothing this year like she did last year, I promised myself I would leave her. Story 23. When he turned our son's 3rd birthday celebration into a painful ordeal for us so that he could be comfortable and show off to everyone, it was upsetting. He didn't want to drive or deal with parking, but I also had to wear heels to look proper at the fancy restaurant that served no kids' food. So we walked and took public transportation there, with me entertaining our toddler, trying to keep them quiet and in place while he played on his phone and ignored us. As we walked back to the house, my heels bleeding through my stockings, I knew right then and there that he was fundamentally very selfish, and my suspicions had been confirmed. He never considered me or my son's desires or needs. He was also so awful to my dog that I permanently moved the dog to his parents' house, an arrangement his parents did not oppose because they know what he is like. I left a note for him saying I wanted a divorce 2 months later. Story 24. When my wife was scammed by a man claiming to be from PayPal, despite not using PayPal, she did not call the bank to cancel the transactions. Instead, she gave an interview to the local news station. This interview was shared widely on social media. She never contacted the bank or the merchants. Story 25. I had a hint when I knew the main reason I was with him was because the fertility clinic would not work with a single mother. I knew for sure when I briefly wished I had his life insurance money instead of him. Then I could pay off our debts, have a baby, be a widow, and move on. He was terrible, but no one deserves to be trapped with someone who does not love them anymore. So I left. Story 26. Everything was supposedly my fault, and my spouse believed he had no responsibility for any issues. Okay, we are done. Story 27. She killed the bedroom. What is the marriage all about? Sex. This killed the communication. This killed the marriage. I am just waiting for my time until divorce. Story 28. I was just exhausted. My ex-husband was needy. He was loving and kind but treated me like a security blanket. I did all of the financial, household, and medical planning for him and his children, my stepchildren. He is a hard worker and a good man and put me on a pedestal. People were truly shocked when I left. When I finally got my own place, I thought it would be a short break. But the relief I felt made me realize it should be permanent. I always say good things about my ex even though he no longer speaks to me. He has a new girlfriend living in our old house, which I let him have along with everything else in the divorce, and I am glad he has someone to lean on. But I do not regret my decision at all, and it has been years. Story 29. When she followed me to Mars and tried to convince me that I was still at recall, sitting in the machine experiencing a total mental meltdown. Story 30. Not married, but dated for 7 years in codependency. Discussing dating other people with our couples counselor after acknowledging we were terrible for each other. I still offered to let her see my phone whenever. I had not dated, but she had already seen a few other men. The counselor told both of us that I was incapable of establishing healthy boundaries. She was not going to respect them, and we needed to break up immediately. Story 31. When I got tired of the nonstop nagging and unnecessary chatter about anything and everything all day every day. No peace. Story 32. She said my life outside the house did not exist to her. Therefore, she was not interested in hearing about my day. Story 33. I was in a counseling session, and he said to me, "I think you have already made the decision." In that moment, I knew it was time to leave. Story 34. Probably when she took off with our children, refused to let me have any contact with them, took the car, transferred money out of our joint account, went through my emails, messages, location history, and cloud storage, and falsely reported me to the police for domestic violence. Story 35. It's hard to say what the final straw was. He would chase me around the house to criticize me for hours. One day, I realized that when I asked for space, he would not leave me alone. It got so bad that I locked myself in the bathroom just to get away from him. I don't even remember what we were arguing about. I just remember screaming for him to leave me alone and feeling like a cornered, rabid animal. Maybe it was the day he wouldn't get up to take me to the shop to pick up my car before they closed. He got mad at me for rushing him. He ended up getting in the car, accelerating away as fast as possible, leaving me alone on the curb. Maybe it was the day I finally realized the pattern. About once a week, he would find something to get mad about. It was like he couldn't handle things being peaceful for too long. He couldn't trust peace. He always had to find a problem and start something. Most of all, I think I knew it was time when I realized the relationship was making me sick. Literally sick from all the constant stress. I became severely depressed, was exhausted all the time, and started abusing marijuana. I didn't like who I was anymore. I didn't like who I became when I was with him. All of that evaporated when he left. I started to feel like a person again. I joked that I was growing a personality again. The word toxic gets thrown around a lot, but it really was as if my marriage was poisoning me. Story 36. When I realized I am finally tired of planning and taking the initiative to do everything, I have 2 children, not 3. He is a huge mama's boy. Story 37. When a kind stranger in a coffee shop sat with me in my distress for a moment and asked, "If your daughter were in your position right now, what would you want her to do?" Bam. Instant gratitude. It was one of the best and hardest decisions of my life. Story 38. When I admitted to myself that I loved my children, my home, my family, my friends, and my life, but did not love him or like him that much, and did not want to share any of it with him anymore. Story 39. It started before it even began. Early on, before even a year had passed, I really trusted her by telling her about a sexual assault that happened to me when I was younger. She told her spiritual group she was really into at the time. It had huge cult vibes and took her years to realize that herself. When I told her, she was the only one I confided in, and I wanted to keep it private. I don't think she ever realized how much that hurt me. Leading up to marriage, I realized her goals, especially financially, and wanted to work with her. But I also realized she would constantly make decisions that really hurt me if she thought it was best, like trying to become a sugar baby. I tried to be on board at first, but told her I couldn't go along with it. Later, I found out she continued to explore the idea. Then I found out on my wedding day that she was cheating on me for months with a leader of her spiritual group. That was a really dark time for me that got stretched out because I didn't feel like she was there for me, for us, or for our marriage to try to repair. She was going through her own depression about herself and the realities of her group. She never apologized to me for what she did, until I pushed her for one that lacked meaning. I lost myself. I was a shell going through the motions and became so physically and mentally ill that I didn't recognize myself in the mirror. I wasn't happy and wanted her care and support, marriage counseling, and accountability. That didn't happen. She always felt attacked and withdrew. I was scared to stay as she kept lying to me and hiding things. She repeatedly tried to talk to the leader she slept with behind my back. I found where she sent him intimate photos on her phone, jokes about me to him, and descriptions about what she wanted him to do sexually while she was also planning our wedding. I was scared to leave because I lost all confidence I used to have in myself and didn't know which way was up. When she cheated again, then tried to make it work with both of us, then broke up with me, it was really hard. Despite having been broken for a long time, I didn't realize then that it would lead me to leave, get therapy, and have much healthier relationships. I became a person again who felt capable, more confident, and wanted to live my life. I could stop crying almost every day alone in my car. I could have done a lot better myself. I could have connected with her and had better communication. I am far from blameless and hurt her too. To me, she long stopped being my partner and friend, and I couldn't pull myself together. But I still don't think she is a bad person. She did terrible things to me, but I hope she learned what those actions can do to a person and never does it again. I hope she can have a happy and fulfilling love where she doesn't hurt others and feels like herself. Story 40. When my ex berated me for 48 hours straight to find out the name of a friend who remarked that she treated me poorly, told me a lot. It showed me that there are no limits to what she would stoop to in order to satisfy her sense of indignation. Also, that mistreating me meant absolutely nothing to her. She happily did it in spades to find out the name of who would point it out. But actually stopping mistreatment? The thought never crossed her mind. Most of all, even though I tried hard to hold out, I eventually broke and gave it up. Until then, I always believed I could handle her manipulations. When I realized that I couldn't, I knew that was the end of the relationship. I didn't even admit it that day, but that event utterly sealed the marriage's fate, and it was irretrievable at that point. I think it limped along for another 3 months or so before I broke the news. Towards the very end, she was making moves in the right direction, which maybe a year prior could have saved us. But by that point, my feelings, trust, and affection for her were totally destroyed. Story 41. In the midst of it now, my wife keeps bringing up stuff from the past. I took my day off only to have a long argument about nonsense that led to arguments from the past. I spent 3 hours in bed for no reason. No matter what I do, it never satisfies her. Story 42. 11 years in, 15 years together, better than ever. Feel very fortunate. She is not perfect, but she is mine. Story 43. The kids and I were enjoying ourselves in the kitchen, dancing around, when he came in angry and ruined the mood. That was not the only issue, but it was the last straw to see my children go from carefree to tense and nervous. Story 44. When I found out that my wife lied about her sexual past before we married, I suspected it on our wedding night. Years later, the truth came out. I would have divorced her if not for the children. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.